Passionate Living with Kat Miller is brought to you by Healthy Communities 2030. For more information, go to creatinghealthycommunities.org.
Are you ready for Season 2 of Passionate Living? Well, here it is. I'm so excited to take you on a journey meeting everyday people just like you and me who by living their passions have made a big difference in the world around them. Plus, I'll share some tips to naturally live an even healthier, more balanced life. In this very special launch into Season 2, I'm going to introduce you to a man whose music has touched the world in a profound way. From his early days working with Jimmy Messina, Kenny Loggins launched into a solo career with hits such as Footloose, Danger Zone, Whenever You Call Me Friend, and so many more. His heartfelt and sometimes environmental message inspired former Vice President Al Gore to declare Kenny's song Conviction of the Heart is the unofficial anthem of the environmental movement. Today, we'll share part one of a conversation with this fascinating, award-winning writer and performer. Next, we're going to honor Black History Month with a visit to the Colored Musicians Club in Buffalo, New York, one of the oldest operating African-American music venues in the country. Musical greats like Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, Buffalo's own Grover Washington Jr., and an endless list of supporters contributed to this cultural jewel. But first, in honor of the upcoming Valentine's Day, let's meet a fun-filled author, Dana Lamb, who's going to share a few date ideas that will set your Valentine's Day on fire. In a good way, of course. So sit back, buckle your seatbelt, and let's get started on this week's adventure of Passionate Living.
Today I have a very special guest on the show who's going to help us with some Valentine's Day pointers. Dana Lamb, you have a book that you've written, Surprise Day Challenge and a Company, where you coach people through surprise dates of putting a spark back in their relationship again.
Yes, I do. This actually started about 6 years ago, and it was the idea of my life and business partner, Marty. He asked me if I would be willing to plan one surprise date a month, every month with him. So we would take turns. And I said, absolutely. And we did this for several years. And I realized that this is something that could help other relationships as well. I knew how special and amazing it was to our relationship. And that's what launched it all. And about 4 years ago, we turned it into a business to help other couples.
That's beautiful. Now tell me a little bit about the surprise dates. What is the importance of that in a relationship?
In relationships, it's so key. Esther Perel says we need two things in relationship. We need stability and we also need desire. Unfortunately, stability is a little boring, and what increases desire is risk. So that's why it's not just a date night. So dinner and a movie just really doesn't cut it anymore. It really never has. You want to, having that surprise element gives you that anticipation, something to look forward to, and the butterflies in your tummy that you get in new relationship and new love that can continue that on in a long-term relationship.
Now you have some pointers for us for Valentine's Day on some ideas for surprise dates.
So date number one, can you guess what it might be? A cooking class. So if you have wanderlust like I do and not being able to travel lately, why not bring Italy or Japan to you? There is an awesome company. It's called Chef in the Dish, and you can hire a chef from around the world to come into your kitchen via Skype or Zoom and maybe make paella from Barcelona. And so that's a great way to feel like you're maybe traveling a little bit, and it would be a little out of the box from a regular boring dinner. Another option is Cozy Meal. There's a company called Cozy Meal, and they're nationwide, and they connect you with local chefs in your city. So they can come to your home and cook dinner for you, and not just cook dinner for you, but they'll do a cooking class. So they'll show you how. So it's an experiential thing. And then they do all the cleanup, which is great.
That's beautiful. Well, will you promise to come back again and give more pointers to people and share with us what you're doing?
Yes, I would love to.
Great. And people can reach you on your website.
Yes, the best place to find information is the surprise date. It's actually just surprisedatechallenge.com. And we have a free inspiration kit that you can download there that has date ideas as well as a little commitment form. So if you'd like to do the surprise date challenge and commit to planning a surprise date every month, you can print our little form and download it. And we're always posting great blogs with date ideas that you can do, and also gift ideas, especially so if your partner's love language is all about receiving gifts. I love finding cool gift ideas that someone maybe hasn't thought of before or seen.
Beautiful. Well, that's something we're going to have you come back and talk about, the love language, because that's a really important one.
It's so important. Yes.
Well, good. So we'll see you soon, and thank you again, Dana.
Thank you, Kat, for having me on.
You're welcome.
I'm here with Terry Alfred, who is the Executive Director of the African American Heritage Corridor right here behind us. You'll see the archway, and you oversee everything in this whole corridor.
Right, so what I do is I'm the Executive Director of the Commission, the
Right.
Corridor Commission. And basically what we do is the Commission serves to endeavors to integrate the cultural significance and impact of African Americans in the city of Buffalo,
Right.
historically.
And through the course of this month, I want to cover more of the corridor with you.
Yeah, we're going to do a nice little walkthrough in most of the spaces. This is the iconic Colored Musicians Club and Museum, which was the bastion of all the greats in jazz that you can name. They all mostly came through here. It also includes the Edward Nash House, Reverend Edward Nash House,
Right.
which you'll be visiting, which was the home of the one of the prestigious pastors of the day. But with the onset of social justice and folks wanting to be awake in terms of who they are, where they come from, and where they want to go, we are kind of like carrying on the baton, if you will, for those individuals.
And it's such vital work, especially now.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you.
it's
We appreciate
beautiful.
it. Thank you very much.
I'm here today with George Scott at the Colored Musicians Club in Buffalo, New York, and I have spent many hours in this place listening to some of the most extraordinary musicians. This is one of the oldest black musician clubs in the
still
country,
left.
right?
Yeah.
That's still left. Would it have only been black musicians in the early days, or did everybody come and congregate? Or
Well, what was
was it?
special about this club, we were probably one
Yeah.
of the first to actually have black and white musicians, as
Okay.
well as black and white audiences.
Right.
Because the bottom line, it was about the music.
Right.
And if you wanted to play jazz, I mean, this was the spot in Buffalo where you learned it. And the musicians were very helpful and sharing with anybody who wanted to learn how to play jazz, which made it special. Now, this painting here was done by Mr. William Cooper. And William Cooper was a local artist that was known worldwide. This was maybe the second to last work that he did prior to his death. But when we get people from all over the world, this is probably one of the first places that pictures are taken. And speaking of which, we had a famous celebrity that took a picture right in front of this. The gentleman just passed away last year, Chadwick Boseman. He played Thurgood Marshall when he was in Buffalo, but who knew that a year later he would be one of the biggest actors with Black Panther. And I got to stand with him right in front of this.
Wow. That's
So come on
great.
back.
Thank you, George.
Now, what we did with this museum, we wanted to make this interactive because, as you mentioned earlier, we want to get young people liking or wanting to get into jazz music.
Right.
So it's interactive as to, we have mixing boards here. So we have 3 jazz songs with local jazz people in it. Harold Arlen, he was from Buffalo, and he wrote the famous song Over the Rainbow. We have Duke Ellington's Take the A Train. There was a Buffalo gentleman by the name of Stuff Smith who played the first jazz violin and was a singer in the band. And then naturally, probably the greatest jazz player that came out of here would be Grover Washington. And of course, Mr. Magic. So again, you can mix the sound however you want to listen to the song, which is pretty cool, and the kids love that.
Wow, that's great. So it gives them experience on the
Right,
mixing board, so they
right.
can actually, you know, have some engineering.
Get a feeling. Yeah. Now over here we have a wall with this picture here shows some of the many famous musicians and vocalists that came through Buffalo, in some cases lived in Buffalo. So we had Louis Armstrong's wife, Lil Armstrong, who lived in Buffalo.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Right after pretty much a divorce with her husband, she came here. She was a member of our union. And in 1971, when she passed, her estate still paid her dues 3 years after.
Wow.
And we had Nat King Cole here. We had Duke Ellington, as I mentioned. Ella Fitzgerald did many concerts here.
And what is this over here that you have?
Well, over here, what we did was most youngsters, they don't know some of these instruments. Now, naturally, drums, guitar, piano, they know, but some of them, they don't get to see what a trombone is, or what a trumpet is, or alto sax or tenor sax. So we have each one of those instruments sitting on a particular color, and then we have a matching button. So they would just simply press and hold the button down, and they get to hear 20 seconds or so of what a trombone sounds like, or a bass, stand-up bass, trumpet, and so on.
Well, can we take a look at the club upstairs?
Sure, let's go upstairs.
Spent many a time with my misspent youth up in that room listening to
Yeah,
wonderful,
come on up.
wonderful jazz musicians. George, tell me a little bit about the club up here.
Well, this is where the magic takes place.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, back in the early 30s with segregation, a lot of these visiting musicians as well as local musicians, when they got done playing at these famous clubs around the city, they couldn't stay, oddly enough, and eat or drink with the audience who paid the good money to see them play. Because of that, they had no place else to eat or drink, so they came back to the club. So in a way, it was a good thing, because now our local musicians, they got to meet these guys doing the jam session. And when they heard these guys playing, they said, wow, this guy's pretty good. You know, how would you like to tour with us? So it almost worked out like a booking agency being up here playing with those guys.
That's
and it was great. Well, when they first moved into the building, naturally, this wasn't a bar yet. It was just a building.
Right.
So they would bring up like cases of either beer or wine or whatever. So they would put the case on its side, then set the bottle on the case, and they served from there. Well, they had some members who were carpenters, so they built this bar by hand. So this is the original actual bar that served all the famous people that we mentioned earlier. And you know, you even see some knife cuttings and things like that.
Wow, that's
and
great.
then it also sort of had a speakeasy type of feel to it too.
So it was open after hours?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the club got in trouble one night. If we come back here a little bit, where the refrigerator is right here, there used to be a window back there. And one of those nights, while the guys were up here, they were playing cards and drinking and whatnot. There was a building that was right up against this building. So one of the cops got a ladder, climbed up on the roof, he looked through the window, then he called some more cops, and then they raided the place through the window. The following day, the guys who weren't arrested, they bricked up that window. Then they made a trap door in the kitchen. This would come up. Yeah, so let me move that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And they would go down and out the basement and out.
Oh, that is the best. What a great
so,
story.
you know, that's what Prohibition gave you, some great hiding places.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the story of this club up here. But again, you can see it was a long, narrow building, but the sound was impeccable. I mean, there was not a bad seat in this place. And the fact that you can think of having, you know, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Coltrane and stuff in this building playing. It was amazing. Yeah, so this is our humble little home, and you know, can't wait where we can open it up for the public.
Thanks, George. I appreciate the tour today.
No problem. Thank you.
Christopher Robin and I walked along under branches lit up by the moon, posing our questions to Al and Dio as our days disappear all too soon.
I have a very special guest today on Passionate Living. This is an artist, singer, songwriter, Emmy Award-winning, brilliant musician who I have been listening to my whole life. He's a big part of the fabric of my soul, and who I am blessed to know this lifetime as a dear friend. And I want to introduce him to all of you today. I have Kenny Loggins here with me. Kenny, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kat. It's good to be here.
You've had like the most amazing career. I mean, it's had so many different incarnations.
Yeah.
Starting out, and then of course you and Jimmy Messina back in the early days. One of my great exciting moments this lifetime was when you took me to Jimmy's surprise 60th birthday party when he was up in San Ynez. And I got to see the two of you interact. It was so fun. It was so much fun. I was looking so forward to that.
Yeah, pretty weird.
Well, you really were like brothers, and
in all ways. Yeah. We could definitely get on each other's nerves like brothers.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
That's a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and to start out in those days with your Mama Don't Dance and all of those. I love that music. Yeah.
And then I went from that to a completely switch in styles to Celebrate Me Home, and started writing with keyboard guys, because I started hearing chord changes that I didn't know how to play on the guitar. And so I would sit with piano players and I'd sing these melodies and I'd say, I think it's kind of like that, but I didn't play piano. So I had to kind of say, give me this note and this note. And they'd go, oh, well, you mean this? I'm like, yeah.
So tell me, what have you been up to? What have you been doing during this strange time that we've all been experiencing?
Well, I've done a few of those home concerts. Right. I did mostly, I waited until we could have a couple of musicians because I'd rather do it as a trio. The first real concert, so-called concert that I did was in the Libero Theater, which is like a 150-year-old theater in Santa Barbara.
I love it there. It's so gorgeous.
And so we were on the stage at the Libero Theater, Rick Cowling and Tarek Akoni, a guitar player here in town. And we did it, 6 feet apart with a camera person circling us, and then about 5 stationary cameras around us. And did a live performance out of that. And then,
did you raise funds with it?
Yeah, we're raising money for venues all around the country. And there's an organization that has unified all these small promoters, meaning small venue promoters. And so they're just looking for, like so many people, they're looking for financial help during a period of time. It's very difficult for those of us who make our living performing, because there's not a lot of avenues to get that performance out there or to show up anywhere. So it's been a slim times for that.
Now you have lived the most amazing life. So many people have listened to your music, love your music because of the soulfulness of the heart. I remember you've told me a few times is that was even someone in your family is because you wrote about everything going on in your life, but that is what touches people because you really wrote from your heart the whole time.
I think a lot of people say that it's that what I write about is like the soundtrack to everybody's lives, because we all go through so much of the same stuff. I mean, there really is only so much stuff we're going to go through. And love and relationship, you know, of course, is the go-to for most musicians. But also inner work and the relationship to, you know, the philosophical relationship to life itself and the things we do in our lives. And so it's all fodder for my art, of course. And I think it is for really every artist, whether they admit it or not.
You told me a story once that I just loved about you had just recorded, I'm trying to look at the album, and you had the reels and your van got stolen.
Oh, right. That's Leap of Faith.
Where all the dreams that we once had, this is the time to bring them back. What were the promises caught on the tips of our tongues?
I was about halfway through that, and I got a message. They Columbia Records. I was on Columbia Records, and they hired a new president of the company.
Right.
And the president came in and said, "So what's up with Loggins?" And everybody said, "We haven't heard anything." And I was a sizable amount of money into the production of that album. And my engineer's motto was take more time, spend more money.
Right.
And so the president, this new fella, Donnie Einer, he wanted to come in and hear the record, wanted to know where the money was going. Simultaneously with that, I decided to move my production from LA up to Santa Barbara, where I was living. And so we loaded everything in a U-Haul. And that included a Mitsubishi 32-track digital machine, which in those days was like the super high-end digital recording.
Right.
And amps and guitars. And on the way up to Los Angeles, the fella driving the truck stopped for some lunch at Denny's or something. And when he came out, the truck was gone. And everything, including my master tapes, had been on that truck, and everything was stolen. And simultaneously, then I hear from Donnie Einer's office, you know, Donnie wants to hear the record. I don't have the record. You know, it's out there somewhere. And but what I have is copies. What in those days were called slave tapes, that you would have the master reel that would run, and then the slave would follow it electronically. And then you could record new material on the slaves that would then later on be dubbed together to make the whole record. And we were trying to figure out, well, what do we do? I had to make a decision. Am I going to keep recording as if I have the masters and hope for the truck to be found and the masters to be found? Or do I try to rebuild the masters to have something to show Donnie Einer?
Right.
And I knew that the feeling I'd had from creating that album was that it was a very, guided kind of work. So I decided to just keep recording as if I had the masters and trust that they would come back. And I just had a really strong feeling in my body. I wasn't nervous about it at all. I knew they were going to return. And about a week before Donnie wanted to hear the record, he gave us a month to put it together. A week before, the police found the truck, and everything had been stolen except the master tapes, which had been moved up to the cab of the truck and locked up in the cab.
Almost like they knew. It's almost like they knew that.
Yeah. Maybe it was a fan, you know.
Yeah.
We won't take the recordings, but we need the gear.
Right.
So we got the tapes back, and I had 4 days to reassemble the album now, to put everything together. And it was the first time that I'd heard the whole album at once. And Terry Nelson, my engineer, and I stayed up for 2 days to piece everything together. And he loved the record, and he ended up ultimately releasing 5 singles from the record, which had never happened to me in my whole career.
Wow.
You're lucky if you get 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and speaking of luck, at the same time that happened, a new radio format appeared. And the radio format was called Adult Contemporary.
Right.
I became the darling of Adult Contemporary.
Kenny, thank you so very, very much for joining me today on Passionate Living. It has been such a joy to catch up with you. I miss you. This has been beautiful.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to bring joy to everybody out there watching.
Yeah, I'm glad to do it. It's good to see you again.
Thanks so much.
For making this thing happen tonight. Thank you, Kenny, for joining us.
Thank you for joining us on the launch of Season 2. I hope you enjoyed the journey as much as I did. Remember to join me next week for Part 2 of my interview with Kenny Loggins, the man behind the music. We'll continue our celebration of Black History Month when we hear the story of a man who inspired his community in a fascinating way. Then, take a breathtaking walk through the botanical gardens to learn about the power of plants, and then enjoy a healing, meditative musical journey that you won't want to miss. Join us every weeknight at Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. and Sunday at 11 a.m. here on your hometown station, WBBZ. You can view previous shows from Season 1 on our website, passionateliving.com, or our YouTube channel, passionateliving.tv. We love your feedback, so make sure to leave a comment or send us suggestions for future shows. Meeting our inspirational guests and hearing their heartfelt stories always lifts my spirit in these challenging times. Remember, now more than ever, take some time to watch an inspiring show or movie, listen to uplifting music, go outside for an invigorating walk, or do something else to bring more joy to your life. When challenges surround us, we have to make sure to include a healthy dose of laughter and smiles in our daily life. It's the best natural immune booster you could ever ask for. So until next week, I'm writing you a prescription to fill your life with joy. And we'll see you soon for our next adventure of Passionate Living.
Even though